There's so many opportunities out there for volunteering. I mean, all I do is volunteer these days. It's awesome. I had a retired 2-star General Jones, tell me one time, he goes, sugar, crack cocaine, and volunteering all stimulate the same neurons in your brain. Wow. So I get a big charge. Of course, I don't know about the other stuff.
Yeah, stay away from the other. Maybe stay away from the other, though, especially the second one you mentioned.
Yeah, it's just a charge. It gets you up in the morning, and young people can have that too.
Hey, and welcome to Zero Compromise, helping you stand for truth in a world that falls for lies. I'm Patricia Engler, joined here in a very special place by Jessica DeFord, aka JJ.
Hello.
And Baby DeFord, and Rocket Rob Webb.
Hey, guys.
And who do we have with us today, JJ?
We are very excited to be interviewing Colonel Patrick Kanewske, and we're really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, make sure you guys stay tuned for this whole conversation. It's going to be amazing when we're hearing from Colonel K, some of his background, some of his testimony. So let's go ahead and start off now the conversation with where we are and all the awesome things you guys do here.
Well, this is Patriots Landing. We're in Williamstown, Kentucky. We call it 3 turns from the Ark.
That's
you take
true.
3 right-hand turns, and obviously the Ark is the number 1 thing here in Williamstown, but we like to fashion ourselves as number 2.
There you go.
So we get a lot of volunteers here, a lot of veterans. Actually, we get civilians that help us out here as well. But Patriots Landing is a rural, faith-based veterans workshop centered around woodworking. We do a lot of woodworking. We have a lot of items that we sell. We have a lot of things online. This place just opened last year. We opened in March of 2023. We actually broke ground in February of 2022 and had a building schedule that brought us to where we are now.
What was the heart behind starting Patriots Landing?
Okay, that's a long story, which it's a really good story too. Joe Montgomery is the founder. So Joe Montgomery started after being in the corporate world for a while. He was actually running cornhole tournaments for corporations. It was really kind of an amazing thing, team building, cornholes, and then decided that he really wanted to give back. His dad was a Marine in the 50s. He was in the Marine Corps, enlisted in the 1950s, and he really wanted to give back. He wanted to help veterans and things like that. So he started making cornhole boards, really high quality cornhole boards, shipping those out to bases and stations and ships around the world so they could have their own tournaments, and he sponsored them and paid for them and all that kind of stuff. So it was really a very cool start to all this. In 2015, he was down in northern Kentucky, took a visit over here. Right across the street from us is it's actually run by the KDVA, which is the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs. It's a veteran cemetery. And the veteran cemetery here has been open maybe 15 years. It's fairly new. But in 2015, Joe went over there to check them out and just kind of, hey, this is me. This is what I do kind of thing. And he noticed in their conference room that there was a whole bunch of flags in burial flag cases. The burial flags, every veteran gets a burial flag. The family gets a burial flag when the veteran's buried. So they were all lined up in the conference room. There was 15 of them. And Joe's like, well, what's this? And the people at the cemetery said nobody came to the funeral, which was really heartbreaking when you think about it. There was no family members. People might have come, but there was no family members to give the flag to. So the cemetery over here did the right thing. They put the flags in burial flag cases, the triangular flag cases with the glass on it that you might be familiar with. So Joe's looking at the flag cases and, okay, it's got the next of kin contact data on there, et cetera. But right below that, there's a label on it that says made in China. So he said, we can't have this. So he figured out how to make burial flag cases. And he had to talk to somebody that knows the Pythagorean theorem. So obviously the top of the flag case is 90 degrees and then you have, other angles, 22 and a half. So he figured out how to make them really high quality, red oak, solid wood with, real glass and all that. And started calling around a little bit, what's the market for this? And figured that out. Called Arlington Cemetery and said, do you guys have those for sale in your gift shop? No, we don't. So we make the burial flag cases that they sell at Arlington Cemetery.
That's incredible.
Wow.
That is really awesome that we're able to do that. So they know our story at Arlington Cemetery also.
Yeah, so before we keep moving on with that, go ahead and talk a little bit about your testimony and some of your background.
Mm-hmm. Well, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, Dallas proper. A lot of people say they're from Dallas, but it's not really. But anyhow, Dallas proper. I went to W.T. White High School. And in high school, I was saved. I think I was a sophomore in high school when I was saved. And I was part of Young Life and all that back then. And Actually, I was raised a Catholic, and my sister started dating somebody from a Pentecostal church. So
How'd that go?
it was quite a change. So I was going to the Pentecostal church, and that's where I got saved. And then Young Life really helped me out a lot. And then I enlisted after high school. And
You were in the Air Force, right?
oh boy,
Offending him.
I was debating if I wanted to say
oh
it.
boy. No, I enlisted in the Navy after high school. So Joe Montgomery gives me a hard time about that all the time, but he's like, "You're really in the Navy." Well, Marine Corps' Department of the Navy. I say that I was in the men's department. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I enlisted in the Navy. I was doing that for about 3 years. And then I was kind of in a rut, quite frankly. Wasn't going to church. Wasn't doing the right thing in God's eyes in a lot of ways. And then I put in to go to the Naval Academy. And I got an appointment to the Naval Academy, which in Annapolis, Maryland, and started going there. I was in the choir at church, and I got involved with the Bible studies and things like that, and got back on track. So the Naval Academy was not only a great place to go to college and all that, but I was able to get back on track with my faith, which was very good. I was commissioned as a Marine because the Naval Academy can commission up to 1/6 of the class as Marines. They have a law or something on the number of Marines they can have, but I was in the Marines. My dad was in the Marine Corps in World War II, so I had a big example with that and all, so it was very cool. And as a Marine, you can pick what job you want to have. Logistics or artillery or tanks or whatever. And I chose, aviation or things like that. I chose infantry. So I was in the infantry in the Marine Corps for 30 years.
Wow. Thank you for your service, by
Yes,
the way.
thank you
That's
very
awesome.
much.
It was awesome. Awesome career. It's totally tied. You can tie your career to your faith. So there's no problem with that. Several of the duty stations I went to, my boss was a Christian also. During Desert Storm, my boss actually retired as a Marine 2-star. General Jones was a Christian.
Okay.
And
That's what I was going to ask. What's the general percentage in your experience? How many Christians are in the Marine Corps?
Well, there's no atheist in the foxhole, that's for sure.
I was going to say, I've
That's a
always
good
heard that one
point,
too.
Yeah.
You've probably heard that before.
Yeah.
But as far as Christians, it's the same demographic as the United States. Obviously, it's going down. But I was able to latch on to the folks that had a faith. Again, several bosses who were Christians, and we would have Bible studies right there in the office.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
It's
wonderful.
great.
So you're serving in the Marine Corps for 30 years. How did you end up in Williamstown, Kentucky at Patriots Landing?
Okay. Well, that's all about the Ark.
Sure.
Okay, so we raised, my wife Barbara and I, we raised 3 girls. They're all in their 20s now. One's married, one's going to the Citadel. As a matter of fact, Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. She's going to be a Marine like her old man. But and then Hannah just graduated from college here in Northern Kentucky. So we had homeschooled our girls all the way through until we got to here. But I'll kind of go back to that. Homeschooled the girls, and we used a lot of AIG, a lot of Answers in Genesis material. Really awesome stuff. They don't necessarily have a math program that we used. We used Matthew C., but used a lot of AIG materials. And in 2013, we took a trip to Mecca. That's what I call it. We came up here to the museum. And at the museum, we went to several classes and saw the whole museum in 2013, the way it was then, which is quite different now, quite different. But back then, they were having programs down at Legacy Hall about the Ark encounter. And they had this thing called the Ark Bond Initiative. So we saw that and we're like, whoa, this is amazing. So we saw the presentation. They actually let us come down here to the property, and we went through a gate right down Ibeck here and went to the back of the property. It was just a grass hill. They hadn't done anything to it yet. They had some pictures up there, and they kind of had an outline of where they thought the Ark was going to be. But we just totally bought into that. We got their boarding pass for the family. We bought into the Bond Initiative, which was very cool. And we just kind of stayed in touch. I met Mike Zovath. I met Joe Boone, several other folks, Harrison Craig, folks like that. But Mike Zovath's a retired Army lieutenant colonel.
Right, and he's one of the founders of Answers in Genesis, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mike Zovath is one of the founders, along with obviously Ken Ham and Mark Loy. So I kind of stayed in touch with Mike. He says, hey, and by that time I had retired from the Marine Corps. I had a home renovation business and doing things down at Tampa. And Mike's like, well, let me see your resume. Why don't you come on up for a visit sometime? So that was in 2014. I actually came to the groundbreaking ceremony, which was actually a peg. They did this peg ceremony in Legacy Hall because they couldn't handle everybody out here. So I went to that, and Mike and I kind of stayed in touch a little bit, and kind of in 2015 didn't get a hold of him too much. But then the first week of January of 2016, I texted Mike and I said, hey, you're going to open this year. I hope everything's going okay. And then he called me a half hour later and he says, you need to come up here and help us build the Ark. So that was very cool. I got in my truck a couple weeks later. I was working with Harrison Craig quite a bit on the whole project. When I got here, it was obviously under construction. They had just started putting the skin on the outside. The ends of the Ark were not even on there. It was 9 degrees when I got here.
It's about what today is.
Yeah. I discovered my truck's heater didn't work on my way up, which was interesting. But yeah, they put me in charge of building all the walls on the inside of the Ark so they could install the exhibits. The timber framing was done by the Amish, but they needed to have somebody to do the stud walls. Some of the exhibits are planking, like tongue and groove planking. Some is drywall. So, and every single exhibit is a different design of the walls. So that was really a great project. I had to hire a crew and buy the materials, and then we opened on time. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's great.
Not everyone can say that they had a part in building the Ark. So, well, not the Ark, but
it was awesome.
That's
What an
super
awesome
cool.
time.
That's neat. So I'm sure you saw all kinds of great God stories and things like that. So we are actually going to have a part 2 of this presentation where we hear a little bit more of the Ark and all that exciting story. So meanwhile, I'm just wondering, are there any other God stories that you'd be interested in sharing in some of the work that you've seen here among the veterans and helping the community in that way at all?
Oh, lots and lots of stories about this place. All kinds of organizations have stepped up to help Patriots Landing. You know, we call it a faith-based veterans workshop. Faith-based in the sense of, you know, we're not trying to proselytize or anything like that, but the language needs to be proper here. We care about our veterans, and we're just trying to make their life better. We're enhancing in this, it's actually the writing on the wall there. It says enhancing the lives of veterans and their families. So we get quite a few veterans in here. They'll bring their families in with them, and they all want to help out. And we're just trying to help them with a job skill with woodworking, with getting in touch with the VA or the DAV to help them with any kind of medical issues they might have or financial issues. We have actually had Samaritan's Purse come in here. They have,
Super cool.
Yeah, really cool. Samaritan's Purse has an arm of their organization called Heal Our Patriots. Heal Our Patriots takes families on a retreat up to Alaska. And then they were doing a follow-up with the families in this tri-state area, and they did it here at Patriots Landing. And then they went to the Ark.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really good stuff like that. So the DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution, they'll have their meetings in here. In March, we're going to have the Williamstown, or the Grant County Chamber of Commerce is going to have their meeting in here. So this is starting to be a happening place.
Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned with the building of this building itself, there's been some incredible things where people have donated stuff and things like that.
Really amazing. The guy who's in the company that did our foundation, the concrete, he's on our advisory board. We got a big break there. The building itself, the guys were super great to work with, and they were really concerned about doing everything right because they knew this is going to be a place for veterans. We got a break on the wood, the drywall. The company that put in our garage door in the back did it for free.
That's amazing.
Our electrician didn't charge us labor. The plumber did everything at cost. I mean, it's just one thing after another. It was the double door that's right over there. That came from the Ark.
That's cool.
So up on deck 4, there's lots of leftover building materials. That one was actually a used door, but it was the proper door that we needed. And I asked the maintenance guys if we could have it, and they said, yeah.
Praise God. That's
Really
so cool.
That is super cool.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the importance of reaching out to veterans and why that's so needed today.
Well, quite frankly, there's not a lot of programs in Northern Kentucky for veterans. There might be a few up in Cincinnati and there, but in northern Kentucky, there's like nothing. So what we're able to do is reach out to the veterans. They come in here, they have a good time. We do hire some of them. Some of them are on an hourly, but some are a lot of volunteers. We actually get a lot of volunteers in here who are civilians, which is really very cool. But what's important about the veterans is that they have a place where they can go to that they can talk the language. You know, we talk a lot of acronyms.
Sure.
Alphabet soup.
Yeah, exactly right. So we have an acronym control officer here. But they're able to come in here, share their stories, get plugged into other organizations like the DAV or the KDVA.
Those are acronyms.
Yeah, Department or the Disabled American Veterans,
Okay.
or the KDVA is the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs.
Gotcha. You did mention that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Just clarifying.
Yeah, it does get confusing sometimes, but you know, they're able to come here and it's a place of refuge really for a lot of them. They know it's a safe place. They know it's a place where they can share their story. We get a lot of bus tours in here from the Ark.
Really? That's
We'll
neat.
get a couple of weeks sometimes where the bus tours come in. They schedule it ahead of time so they know we're here. They come in. They have this thing. We have this thing called Make It, Take It, where they can come in and make a cross, Patriot cross or something like that, and they can take it with them, and they're able to sign the back, put in like a memorial to a family member or something like that on the back of the cross, which is very neat.
Yeah, which
Very
if you
neat.
guys are watching on YouTube right now, it's right behind the shoulder of Colonel K.
Right, exactly. So those are called Patriot crosses. We do have right behind us, those are called 9 flags. Those are, the reason why we call them that is because the stars are actually 9mm shells. So really cool story there is it's kind of a subliminal message, but if you look really closely at the pattern of the stars, there's a cross in there. Because some of the shells are silver and some are brass. So we have an Air Force veteran that kind of showed us that one day, and he says, "What do you think?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." Those are very popular for that because some of the shells have a primer in them and some don't. So it's you can really tell the cross, which is very cool.
That's cool. I'm going to definitely have to take a closer look at that.
Yeah.
One last question that I was just kind of interested in hearing as you were telling about just all this, all the parts that had to come together for building this place, and how when God gives someone an idea for reaching a sector of the community that maybe hasn't been addressed or a need that hasn't been met, and then God provides the things that need to come together for that to happen. It's cool to see those patterns. So I was going to ask if there is a young person who maybe God has put some sort of need on their heart, or they're thinking what can they do for their community? How would you recommend for them to get started and really walk with God into that process of getting that of getting that set up?
Well, there's so many opportunities out there for volunteering. I mean, all I do is volunteer these days. It's awesome. I mean, you can keep track of your mileage and stuff like that. But volunteering, I had actually a retired 2-star General Jones tell me one time, he goes, you know, sugar, crack cocaine, and volunteering all stimulate the same neurons in your brain.
Interesting.
Wow.
So I get a big charge out of course, I don't know about the other stuff.
Yeah, stay away from the other. Maybe stay away from the other, though, especially the second one you mentioned.
Yeah, I'm not into the other stuff. But
not
volunteering is a huge, it's just a charge. It gets you up in the morning. And young people can have that too. They absolutely can. We have a couple of groups that have come in here where high schools, junior highs, they have a program where they volunteer and they raise money, and they want to identify a charity to raise their money for. And we've been the recipient of some of that. And these kids are just out there volunteering and figuring out where the need is.
If a veteran wants to get plugged in with Patriots Landing, what can they do? How can they just come in, walk through the door, or how can they get involved?
Anybody can come in. On our website is when we're open. We're kind of shadowing the Ark right now. It's closed Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we're open. We have folks in here making the products on Wednesdays and Thursdays. But if they want to make a special appointment or something, just get a hold of us, patriotslanding.org. And our website is up and running. We do have Facebook and all that, so people can get a hold of us that way.
Yeah, so you guys heard it here. If you guys come on down to the Ark Encounter, make sure you stop by the Patriots Landing, say hi to Colonel K if he's here. And make sure you also get plugged in. Make sure you try to figure out the way if you can. If you have the opportunity, go out and volunteer. Like you were saying, it's better than sugar and all the other stuff that we talked about. So get those neurons going.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for your service and for coming and hanging out with us today. And stay tuned for next time, because we do want to hear more about the building of the Ark and some other really interesting topics that Colonel K talks about actually over at the Creation Museum. So if you stop by the Creation Museum, you can hear him speak there. So stay tuned. We will be right back. And meanwhile, please keep standing on the truth of God's word with zero compromise.
See you guys later.
God bless.
Semper Fi.